Welcome to the Pitchwerks podcast. I'm Scot MacTaggart. Over the last 20 years, I've been a sales rep, a marketer, a manager, an executive, a consultant, and an advisor. This show is designed to give you access to my list of contacts so that you can learn more about how to present your ideas at work and succeed in your career.
Startups and salespeople, marketers and managers from the Epicast Network in Pittsburgh. It's the Pitchwerks podcast.
I used to do these talks for teen girls and I'd go into high schools and talk about really more so what your clothing says about you. Not so much what to wear, what not to wear, but just know what image you're conveying, and is that the image you want to convey?
Hey everybody, it's Scott. It is Wednesday. It's the Pitchwerks podcast, and it's Kiya Tomlin this week. So we're talking to Kiya. She is a fashion designer. She produces a line called Uptown. You can check them out at uptownsweats.com. She is reinventing the way women get dressed in the new economy. I mean, guys, we've got the t-shirt and hoodie thing, and it's kind of sloppy, but there's some things happening, maybe t-shirt and a blazer, but there's really not a whole lot going on as far as the ladies are concerned until Kiya decided to really create something for that more forward-thinking female business person, and I hope you'll check it out. Before we jump into the interview, promo news. Remember, I'm at Thrival. I'm moderating a panel with our friend Yvonne Campos and people from 500 Startups, from Pinterest, and from Harry's Grooming. It's going to be a great session talking about branding. I hope you can make it. And if you do, make sure you use the discount coupon that Ascender created for us. Just type in Pitchwerks, and it'll give you 50% off that ticket to Thrival Innovation. I always hit you up for social media and for ratings and reviews. Make sure, okay? If there's something we can do, you let us know. LinkedIn company page, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. And then, as far as the ratings go into iTunes, give us 1 star, 2 stars, 5 stars, whatever you think is appropriate. We, we abide your judgment, but make sure you defend whatever your position is. Let us know where your thought process came from. Let's talk to Kiya. Let's figure out what's going on with fashion and making things here in the United States. All right, let's get started and see if I can keep from embarrassing myself talking about fashion this week. Kiya Tomlin, how are you?
Very well, thank you.
I can't thank you enough for coming in. This is a weird place for me to be. I am not super comfortable talking about what, you live in, which is, fashion and design and whatnot. I'm not going to say that I don't appreciate it. I'm going to say that I don't understand it. And I definitely need your help talking about this, because I don't think you can talk about presenting yourself and your ideas without getting into a little bit of like, what did you decide to wear today? What does it mean? And that's got a bunch of different levels to it. So I guess the first question I want to ask you, why even start, right? Like it's a lot to start any company. How did you come to the decision that you wanted to start a company of your own?
It was a pretty continuous, I guess, just cycle from the time I was little. I was very small.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I just loved fashion, and I was too small to fit the stuff that the cool kids were wearing. And so I wanted to make my own stuff. And so it just started that way, and I just did it. And eventually it just turned into a career. I mean, it wasn't what I had planned on doing.
Right.
I was actually went to school to be a doctor, but this obviously was a love of mine and came back to it.
How about that? So when you were small, did you do the drawings where they start you off with just the basic figure and then you put the clothes on top? That's what my daughter started doing, and I kind of felt like she was on the same path.
Yeah, no, I skipped over all that.
You did?
I just went right to give me a sewing machine and some fabric. Let's go.
Wow. So actually, you were a little bit more comfortable than I would say probably anybody is. I mean, I'm pulling that out of thin air in terms of where I'm getting my frame of reference from. But I mean, a sewing machine feels daunting when the first time you sit behind it.
I'm, for a 10-year-old, it's, it's like a 10-year-old giving them an iPad, I guess. They learn it quickly and
I'm not sure you're giving yourself enough credit on this one. That thing feels like a puzzle box to me. I don't know. Maybe I've got the wrong opinion. So you went to school. You were going to school to be a doctor.
Yep.
And here you are, and you've got this designer fashion business. And as I understand it, you're actually making your things here in the U.S., which my hat's off to you just because that's hard, right?
Correct.
It's all made here.
Yes.
How did you make that happen?
You know what? The fashion industry is very mom and pop, and it is very hard to find what you're looking for. I think it's getting easier now that there's kind of this resurgence to make things here in the States. But previously it was like, turning rocks over, trying to find people that would, do what you needed to do. Really hard. And I think people still have a lot of trouble finding people that can and are willing to do what you need to do, especially if you're working on small quantities.
Yeah, that definitely feels right, because shipping something over to a giant factory makes sense when you need a giant factory type of production.
Right.
I was reading an article not so long ago about the gent who founded American Apparel, right? Who, let's not
interesting guy.
Yeah, let's not pattern ourselves after Mr. Charney, but I think a lot of us became interested in what he was working on because he insisted on domestic manufacturing, and kind of used that as like our rose-colored glasses for the rest of the bizarre behavior, right? Yeah. But it was, and I think continues to be, a real differentiator for certain products. So like, wow, it really is made here. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's not as rare as I think it is, but it feels super rare.
I think I'll have to admit I didn't manufacture here because I had this. I must manufacture in the USA. It was kind of, it was more so I had to teach myself how to produce something. And I thought it was easier to do it here in the United States, where it was more accessible and there wasn't a language barrier and I could see it and be more hands-on. For me, shipping something overseas was quite daunting, not to mention the quantities required to do it. So that's how I started doing it.
Yeah.
And I do like that I can manufacture here in the United States. I don't know. People always ask, where is it manufactured? Where is it made? And they're very excited that it's made in the USA. But I think when it comes down to dollars and cents,
I know exactly
what deciding factor.
It's that bit where people, they want to buy stuff in the US, but then when you show them sometimes, like, what does that mean?
Yes, in terms of dollars.
Yeah, like, okay, well, that one looks close enough. Maybe I should buy the cheap one that probably has a higher incidence of failure, like, what do they call them? Irregular items, right? Thank you so much for being honest about that, though. You and I first met this past summer, and I just like the fact that you were very matter-of-fact in your statements about your business. There was nothing that was fake in terms of like the way you were presenting yourself. And this kind of, I don't know, validates my feeling about that, because I think there's a lot of people who are afraid of that language barrier. They're afraid of, like we had Matt Verlinich in here. Matt had a very successful Kickstarter, and he came right out and he says, like, look, I have an engineering degree, but I don't know the first thing about logistics, about customs, about international shipping. And he ultimately ended up going in that direction, but only because he had a bunch of help along the way. And frankly, he had sold into something like 56 countries on his Kickstarter. And there was, again, we're back to a big factory could actually support, the quantities that he was selling. So here's the other reason I love having you in here, is because I think that you're talking the sensibility of the products that you're making, the pieces you design fit the current moment very nicely, because you're using comfortable fabrics, you're using a comfortable design. It's familiar, but it still doesn't lose that sense that you care about how you look. And I think a lot of us, especially in these small businesses and startup-y, techy kind of environments, have been wondering when some of these things were going to make themselves available, because a lot of these people, and no disrespect to any of you fine folks out in the audience, but it's a sloppy look a lot of times. I mean, feel free to comment if you think.
No, nail on the head. I mean, that's really why I created the collection, because I was a working mom. Once I started leaving my home, and when I had the first time I moved my studio outside the house and had to start meeting clients, and I couldn't work all day in my pajama pants and my, grubby sweats like I did at my house.
Right.
And so then, I did get dressed up and, like a professional businesswoman, but the type of work that I do when I was doing custom design, which is a lot of, climbing on top of cutting tables or scooching around on the floor doing hems, it just didn't lend itself to the type of movement and comfort and maintenance that I needed doing that type of work. So I just wanted to create something that I could get on about my life in and beyond just going to work every day and doing that type of work. But also I have 3 kids. I have a poorly behaved dog. I have, I've got laundry and cooking and
you've got real life.
Yes. Community service things to do. And I just wanted to be able to put on my, like my Mark Zuckerberg outfit and just get about my business. But I wanted to look a little better.
Right. And Zuckerberg is actually, it's weird how iconic that reference is. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows what you're talking about, that t-shirt and hoodie thing. And the Steve Jobs thing was always like the black turtleneck, the jeans and the, sneakers and whatnot. So again, it's an elegant look, but it's still comfortable. And some of these people are doing 14, 16-hour days. I mean, comfortable definitely comes in handy when you've been on your feet all day long, entertaining clients and doing everything else. Were you thinking about that? Like, the idea that there wasn't a female Zuckerberg?
No, because I want to look good.
Okay, good.
I kind of, I don't, yes, I love comfort, but I don't like to go to Giant Eagle in my, grubby sweats and have people go, oh, hi, nice to see you. And I've got, my hair in a mop on top of my head and like baby stains on my stuff. No, I like to look presentable. I want to look good, but I don't want the maintenance that comes with it.
Right. So the one thing that kind of fascinates me, right, is what are the rules, right? And I don't know if you have sort of guiding rules that you use in terms of like what, like, I don't know, like with men, a collared shirt means something that an uncollared shirt doesn't mean. Does that make sense?
Yes, because we always tell my boys, like, if we're going out to a nice restaurant, put on a collared shirt.
Yes. You know what I mean, then. So do you think that way in the line? So you're sitting down, there's a blank piece of paper in front of you. You're like, okay, I'm coming up with the next thing, the next Uptown Sweats piece, and I'm going to make this for a little bit more professional crowd. What does it have to include?
For women, we don't have those.
I'm so jealous right now.
Yeah. I mean, we have things that are, not too contouring, not too tight.
Okay.
Not too revealing. That's pretty much it. I mean, even, we can even wear sleeveless now to professional settings. You can wear your toes out. So really it just has to do with fit is most determined.
Is that a little bit easier with the materials you're working in now? Because it seems like it might be.
It's actually, for a professional setting, it's a little bit harder because the fabric that I use is a bamboo cotton spandex, and so it has stretch to it, but it also has a drape and a volume. So if you make it so it is closer fitting to the body, you do risk it being a little clingy, or a little hugging, which on some people could become, maybe a little less appropriate for a business setting.
Okay.
But if you use too much of the drape, then it starts to get sloppy or overwhelming.
And that's definitely true for tailored clothing too, right? You have the same rules. I wasn't sure. Again, this is kind of new. And that's what's cool about it, is the fact that I would say, again, the reason that I'm so intrigued by what you're working on is because it's overdue that we have these kinds of things in the startup and sort of young, small business community, where it's hard to express the idea that you bring freshness to your client if you don't look like it when you come through the door. And the unfortunate thing, and conservative folks like me, in terms of dress at least, right, are worried about not knowing the rules. It's really challenging. Like, well, I like the way that looks on that dude who gets paid to look the right way.
Right, but can I pull it off?
But yeah, I don't know the rules of this. And what's the right way to set this up, or what's the wrong way? I think you were probably raised, I'm not 100% sure, but you've made a couple comments that sort of suggest like you were raised by maybe a little bit strict, a little bit conservative parents, right? The collared shirt thing is really the one I'm grabbing onto here, right? And they kind of gave you a system. Like, oh, this is what you wear to church, and this is what you wear to a funeral, and this is what you wear to a wedding, and you never show up empty-handed. Like, there were rules for all these different scenarios. And it feels like the rules are disappearing.
They are, unfortunately, and I will say I do design to rules.
Yeah.
Leggings aren't pants. I believe leggings aren't pants. Your top must cover your bottom. You can wear the leggings, but they're meant to be in my view, they're meant to be with a tunic unless you're working out. And plus, I think for women, when I design to show off the beauty of the woman, not the beauty of the physique. And unfortunately, I think that if we show too much of the physique, then people forget to look for the beauty of the woman. And so I try to create things that are not distracting. I think in that way.
And you said the rules are disappearing. Unfortunately, and I don't know if that's unfortunate. I hope that some of them take their place, maybe if just to make life easier, right? But some of them need to go.
Yeah, I guess maybe unfortunately is probably a poor choice of words because it's it's liberating and it's empowering that we can make choices for ourselves.
Yeah.
I guess I just choose certain choices and I like those choices and I.
Okay, so there are certain systems that get me through the day. Mm-hmm. There, in my view, there's a right way to write an email. Okay, mm-hmm. Stupid and control-ish and whatnot as that may be. Mm-hmm. There is a greeting. There is the information you need up front. And there is the request that I'm making, if there is one. Mm-hmm. And you make sure that it's never so clipped that somebody doesn't think that you forgot about the human. Mm-hmm. These are my rules for writing an email, right? Hi, Kiya, comma. This is what's going on. This is what I need from you. Have a great day, comma, Scott, right?
Yeah.
There's a right way, in my view, to write an email. It's not because I feel like imposing control on other people. It's because it makes my life easier because I don't have to sit there and reinvent the email every time I sit down in front of a keyboard.
I think there's also a presentation that goes along with that because if I get an email like that, I'm like, okay, this guy's professional. He's about his business. This is legit. If I get an email that's has no heading and the punctuation's jacked up and some misspellings and wasn't proofread and it was like ciao at the end, that's a different perception.
Yes.
So if I used to do these talks for teen girls and I'd go into high schools and talk about really more so what your clothing says about you. Not so much what to wear, what not to wear, but just know what image you're conveying and is that the image you want to convey. So if you want to convey that you're, a party girl and, down for whatever, then just know that's the message you're conveying by dressing a certain way. And that to me is similar with your email.
Yeah. Thank you so much because you just brought clarity what I was trying to get to, mm-hmm. right? You in that anecdote mm-hmm. actually said what I've been trying to say, right? Mm-hmm. What messages are you sending is a really good way of putting it. You still own your own little personal brand. Mm-hmm.
Right.
But make sure you know what you're saying.
Right. You want your brand to match what you're presenting. You don't want to think that you're presenting something and everyone else is perceiving it as something totally different.
And that's where the rules come in, is they tell you sort of this is the generally accepted wisdom about wearing the leggings without the tunic.
Yeah.
Right? This is the generally accepted wisdom of just this is the shorthand that you're putting out into the world, whether you realize it or not. And I remember fighting my parents tooth and nail on this stuff, right? Leaving the house in a t-shirt in December.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And my mom listens every week. I can tell you that. So we're going to leave this part in. Yes, Mom, I still remember. Right. And she used to give me hell. She's like, do you know what that says about your parents?
Yes. See, that's what's important when they're kids. Absolutely.
It looks like, what was it? You look like a little ragamuffin orphan child that no one cares about.
That's what I tell my kids all the time. I said, you look like no one cares for you. And please go comb your hair.
Right. And that was, it's obviously not the only thing that she cared about, but mm-hmm. but the messaging was part of the conversation. One of the things that's kind of interesting is the decision between trying to do small batch and trying to go huge, right? Where do you guys want to end up? Uptown Sweats, are you trying to stay small or do you someday think, you might want to go bigger batch?
No, I would love to go big. I really see the brand as like a department store brand, as like a Nordstrom's or.
That's awesome.
Now, whether department stores are still around by the time I'm ready to be a department store brand is
that not depressing?
It's another story.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you're right, in the fact that there's a huge payoff if you can get into those department stores someday.
Yeah.
Right? I do hope that they're there for you.
Yeah.
These malls are ghost towns. I'm not sure what to do with them. How do you think you're going to get there, though? That's the big question.
Really, I've just been, since I had to teach myself how to, figure out how to manufacture in general, from Pittsburgh, which is not a manufacturing city.
Or a fashion city.
City.
Do credit for that, too.
Yeah. So, it's definitely been harder because I don't have the access and network that you would have, say, like in a New York City. But at the same time, you also don't really have the competition.
Right.
That you would have, fierce competition that you would have in New York. So,
and cost basis.
Yeah.
You got to take that part into consideration, too. The moves are many, right? So I have to believe that the department stores or whatever have buyers. The buyers, I'm sure some of them go out of their way to find that sort of weird, undiscovered value, right? But some of them you have to believe are lazy.
Since the recession, that really put a hampering on the retail industry because retailers don't want to take risks anymore. They're not really looking for the newest, hottest, best thing. They're looking for what they know sells. So that's why we see the same brands over and over in every
I'd be terrified
store.
if I was them right now trying to pick product.
Mm-hmm.
We were just talking about how these malls are turning into ghost towns.
Yeah.
I don't know that I'd roll the dice.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know if you have any idea what their margins are, but they can't be that great if people are putting, or taking the signs off the spaces.
Yeah.
So then you have to ask yourself, like, am I a safe brand? I don't think you are, right? And I don't think you want to be. Am I right?
I mean, I think I'm a safe brand. I think
Well, I don't mean in that Dove Charney American Apparel kind of unsafe.
No,
I mean,
I think I make a product that's not outlandish. That lots of people, I could see lots of women would love to wear it. It's like
I think so too. My
amazingly
wife loved
comfortable.
As soon as she saw your stuff, she went, "That's cool stuff.
Yeah.
I'd wear that."
I mean, and if she felt it, she would definitely want it because it really is in the feel of the fabric. And then the look is like a bonus.
Okay, nice.
So in that respect, I think it really is sweats to me.
But you're innovating and safe a lot of times don't sit next to each other, right? That's, I mean, I didn't mean any disrespect by it. I actually meant like the thing that sold last year feels safe, right? Innovation feels risky. And I don't think I'm really revealing any sort of deep, dark secret about the human psyche. I seriously think just people don't associate innovation with that safety. And that may be actually the quicksand that some of these stores are stuck in.
Yeah, I guess I just don't see, to me, and maybe because I have a more varied taste of, love a lot of different things from outlandish to basic. So to me, I don't, I'm not trying to sell one of those wacky couture, feathered, skulled plastic things that come down the runway.
Somebody needs to create that line, wacky couture.
Yeah. So I guess I don't really see it as outlandish.
Like I said, I don't think that outlandish makes it unsafe.
Yeah.
I just think innovative makes it so that a lazy thinker takes a pass.
Okay, I'll give you that.
That's all I was driving at. Because again, I think it's actually very elegant. Mm-hmm. And if it's comfortable, that's tough to beat.
I will say when we first started, a couple years ago, we started doing the big trade shows and they didn't know where to put us because it was kind of before the athleisure really had a name.
Right.
But then once the athleisure came, then they kept trying to group us with athleisure, and in my mind, it's not athleisure.
You're not. I mean, and you all need to check out uptownsweats.com to see what we're talking about because it's not athleisure.
No, it's not athleisure. But yeah, they kept grouping us with that, and so people were very confused. And actually, even with we've been having this kind of going back and forth debate over the name because when I first started the collection, it was just called Kiya Tomlin. It was actually Kiya Tomlin Pittsburgh. Got it. Which I was thinking, like, if Donna Karan can have New York, I can certainly have Pittsburgh. And
I don't see any reason why not. Yeah.
So when we did the bigger markets, it just it didn't resonate well. And I'll have to admit, it was Pittsburgh that didn't resonate well. It wasn't screaming fashion.
That might hurt some people's feelings to hear it.
Yeah.
But I know that you're right.
Yeah.
We have, as a town, historically turned our nose up at, I'm going to use the word elite. I don't know if it's exactly the perfect word, but in the interest of time and conversation, I'm going to keep using that word.
Well,
right?
I think we're proud to be blue collar.
There it is.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, we love it.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And it kind of feels like, well, this is.
But blue collar, you're not trying to be fabulous.
Yeah.
Like you're anti-fabulous.
Right. And there's definitely this change on the march where we're seeing all these like major tech companies and the big brains that come with them. And some of them were already here to go to school and those kinds of things. And, you know, I read an Anthony Bourdain,
the food guy. Yeah.
And he's got that show, Places Unknown, or Parts Unknown, I think it's called. I screwed it up, I'm sure of it. But he made a comment, something along the lines of, Pittsburgh's done a great job of embracing the future, but holding on to the parts of the past that it loves.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for fashion folk, right? The thing that they loved was not being that upscale fashion type feel. So no, I'm sure it didn't pan out, the Pittsburgh piece.
Yeah.
You got a great name though for design, right? It seems almost like one of those ones they make up for the brands.
Yeah, so the Uptown sweats?
No, Kiya Tomlin, when you were saying Kiya Tomlin
Pittsburgh,
Pittsburgh, the first part I'm sure went over super well because it's like, oh man, that sounds like exactly the modern person, right? And then you threw Pittsburgh in, they're like, wait a minute.
Yeah, they're like,
Are these work boots?
Yeah. Yeah, so they
compete with Dickies and Carhartt.
That's right. So after I dropped the Kiya Tomlin Pittsburgh, I went to Uptown Sweats.
Yeah.
Which I was like, okay, that's it, because that just says these are sweatsuits, but they're cool. They're Uptown, like, Uptown girl. They're stylish. They're chic. But then the problem was people were looking at the clothes and being very confused because they're like, they don't look like sweats.
Right.
They're not sweats. That's not. What do you mean they're sweats? So then we dropped Sweats, and now it's just Uptown by Kiya Tomlin, which now we're debating over is that it's kind of generic. It doesn't even say what it is.
Right. Can you win is the question,
I can't win.
Right?
I don't think I can win.
I don't know anything about fashion, and I cannot help you. Suffice it to say, I would put as much effort as required in if I thought it was a fruitful enterprise. But hey, I'm telling you right now, whatever it is that I believe, run the opposite direction when it comes to marketing fashion. This is, admittedly, a weak spot. But I do think that the idea of working towards that larger goal, definitely I can help you with that, just in terms of breaking that down into smaller tasks, right? And I do think that most of the people that have been on our show, that's been their success, is breaking a big thing into small tasks and then just basically setting a small goal and reaching it, setting the next small goal and reaching it.
I think that's the hard part, though, is as
figuring
a small
out
business, as a small business person, deciding what the goals are.
Yeah.
Instead of, I find myself seeing what the problems are and then trying to address them, as opposed to setting the goals and following the goals.
If I'm you, the goal that I want, I would pick between one of these two. I would either try to dress people, women in tech, right? Because I think, honestly, it's a perfect fit. And I think just calling somebody and saying, I'd like to dress you, would be worth whatever investment you made. And that's a nice small goal that they're either going to say yes or no to. Be like, look, we want to be the Zuckerberg uniform for somebody, who is not a dude, right? Because that one's pretty well traveled, right? The other one that I might be interested in, at least, would be go more like what we're doing now, like the education route, where you start talking about what the new rules might be, because I do think the fear comes from not knowing what they are. And maybe just that sort of thought leadership is a word that gets used a lot for this, right? Where it's like you write a piece and you're like, this is what I think the rules are for working in a startup.
So like being the expert.
Something like that. Well, you are. I mean, let's be 100% honest. I mean, the place would have shut down if it wasn't selling stuff, right? So it's not like you're claiming something that you can't take credit for. I'd love to see a piece by you running in whatever, Lady Nerd magazine or whatever, I don't know what these TechCrunch. Okay, let's pick something like TechCrunch,
Okay.
right? That's a super mainstream publication that's read by everybody in the Silicon Valley, startup-y kind of culture. And just say, like, look, y'all need this because I'm tired of watching people just run from whatever you want to call it, fashion, dressing nice and not sloppy.
But do they want?
Let's find out.
Yeah, that's what's interesting to me. Like I kind of always assume that the people that dress that way, it's because they want to dress that way. And so nothing's really going to change their mindset as opposed to that they just don't know what else to wear.
I would say that people just like we were talking about with like there's a right way and a wrong way to write an email, right? I think people want a railing to hold on to.
Okay.
They want somebody to tell them like a collar means we're going out to dinner, right?
Yes.
That type of rule of thumb is super useful. We can't, and you made the point about how much you're juggling in your life, right? And that's why you need this adaptable clothing. We're all living it. Like we have to be an expert in like saving for college and, like fitness because they're just yelling at us all the time about that, right? You got to be a good parent. You got to be a good employee. You got to save for your retirement. When you start thinking about all the things that get juggled, how much time do people have to devote to studying their look?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's enough, especially not when you're supposed to be the thought leader in your sector.
Yeah.
You're the technology person in your sector. I don't know.
No,
you like the idea?
I do, and I actually, have created essentially a capsule collection, which is, for people like that just I want to look good. I don't want to take the time or the effort. Just tell me what to wear, how to put it together, and bam.
There you go. And then the other thing that's interesting. Here's a third one.
Okay.
I wonder how you get in with folks like Stitch Fix, which is a completely different sort of set of rules, I'm sure, right? But at least then they send out 100 of them and they go, yeah, we got great feedback or we didn't get great feedback and this is what they said. At least then you've got some sort of market research to go off of like, hey, what, am I digging in the right place?
Right.
But those short goals, and again, please, your mileage will vary. Take everything. Just never believe me, okay? But at least use it maybe as a thought, like something new that you could try. And that's all I'm trying to give you. I appreciate you coming in and sort of giving us your insights as far as like where you see the current state of the art being, because we're lost. Kiya Tomlin, Uptown Sweats, thanks for coming in. All right, that's all the time we've got for this week. Thanks again to Kiya Tomlin. Check out uptownsweats.com. Very, very interesting pieces in there. They're great looking. And again, if what you're doing is telling people that you're offering new ideas, why not try and look like it? As far as this show goes, we're always here for you. Look us up, Pitchwerks. We're going to spend the next 7 days putting together next week's show. We hope to see you on the other side. Take care of yourself in the meantime.
The Pitchwerks podcast comes to you from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, a production of the Epicast Network and MacTaggart, LLC. Engineering and production by Buzzy Torek and Nick Miller. For more information, show feedback, and ad sales, visit pitchwerks.com. Pitchwerks.com. On social media, find and follow the show on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram using that same brand name, Pitchwerks.